Good morning, good evening, and wherever the sun may find you. My name is Walt, and this is Coffee and Concepts on Keystroke Medium. I try and differ that every time because I don't want you guys to get bored of me. But speaking of not getting bored of me, today I have Ken Britz with me today. How are you, sir?
Great. How are you doing today?
I am overworked, undercaffeinated, and definitely underappreciated. But we got we're kind of excited. And Lucas Connor saying good morning from YouTube.
Good morning.
The infamous Facebook user. I'll find out who that is in a second. So for those who don't know you, you are like the superstar rock star engineer of Keystroke Medium, the guy that kind of takes what we do when we spit out all our words and turns it coherent. Can you tell people a little bit about what you do for Keystroke?
I mostly do the show notes for the most part. I also pay attention to new podcast streams that are coming out and tell Josh to fix it. But yeah, I actually listen to every episode and I fill in a lot of the show notes, put timestamps in because people like to skip around and go to sometimes like go to the right to the meat of discussions and stuff. So I think your podcast is probably a little too short to do that, but definitely some of the ones, especially like David Weber long ones, you got to really put a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
Also put a lot of links in there too. Whenever anybody mentions something, it's always fun to kind of be like, oh yeah,
hell yeah,
I want to check out that book or series or whatnot. So pretty much what I do.
Yeah, I try and keep them short. That way we're not adding to your workload.
I only talk about one thing, one thing only.
Coffee, and more coffee.
What brand of coffee am I drinking today?
Oh my God! Well, today I got a Peruvian roast, which is really nice. It's a nice balanced coffee if you like stuff from South America that has a little more of the acid. But less of the smoke taste, and it's definitely got a lot of caffeine in it. So this one was definitely needed last night. Oh, what a rough ride! What are you drinking this morning?
I'm drinking generic, the Starbucks Cafe Verona. Like I said, my wife doesn't drink a lot of coffee, so I'm kind of relegated to like K-cup size stuff.
Oh, right on. Scott,
but I had a couple days ago. I had some Just Black, the Black Rifle Company. I like their Just Black, and if I really want some caffeine, not the calf, but the I like the AK-47, which is like a lighter roast. Yeah, it's really really good.
Yeah. Have you tried Alpha Coffee? Used to be Lock and Load Java back in the day.
No, I haven't tried that one.
They're pretty good. They have a lot more light roasts than they do dark roasts. So, I don't grab them as much as I used to, but those are a bunch of special forces guys that got together and started, producing their own and stuff like that. Not only is Scott here as AKA Facebook user, but we also have Lauren chiming in. Good morning. So do you ever do anything like special in regards to coffee? Do you ever do like any like Vietnamese or Thai or anything crazy like that?
No, just straight up coffee.
Right on. And for those,
the interesting thing is that when I was in active duty, I never drank coffee.
Oh, really?
I'm like, I'm getting old, I'm getting tired. I need coffee to keep me going. Yeah.
And so, like on active duty, like were you on a float most of the time, or were you?
Yeah, it was a bit of both, right? Because the way the Navy works is you rotate between sea duty, shore duty, right? So after my initial training round, I was on a boat for about 3.5 years, and then rotated to shore duty and pulled up chocks and moved to the reserves.
Oh, right on.
It reminded me something very interesting. My boat, which you can see in the background there, had So there are two types of electrical systems on submarines, which is vital and non-vital, right?
Mhm.
If you need to preserve, if you have casualty or problem, you trip all the non-vital stuff, which leaves you with light and power, right? But no air conditioning. Well, some air conditioning, but
We got
there was one
Josh Hayes
coffee pot.
chiming in.
There was one coffee pot in the engine room that was wired to the vital bus.
What?
The non-vital. Everybody was like, "That's the most important coffee maker on the ship."
That's pretty crazy.
It was pretty awesome, yeah.
And like, did it kick out caffeine, like diesel powered caffeine? I mean, like, what was going
Yeah,
on?
it was like Navy coffee, right? Which is like Army coffee, right? Which is like whatever they found on the ground, that's what they roasted.
They mixed it with dirt and like
still has dirt on it, right?
that would offend Josh Hayes's delicate coffee sensibilities because he was in the Air Force.
You have to drink with your pinky out.
Yeah. Yes, I tried it once. I sprained my pinky.
Ow. Yeah. It hurt.
So how'd you get into writing?
So I've been amateur writing off and on since I was a teenager. Was one of those habitual start something, never finish something kind of people. I even started in high school when I wrote everything longhand because, man, you didn't have a typewriter in between classes. And this is before the phone, the iPhone era.
Right on.
But it wasn't until I would say about 2007, I kind of got an idea. It started off as I was writing. I started writing screenplays because they're actually easier to finish.
Right on.
It's 120 pages, but they're like quadruple spaced, so it's really only like 20 pages. By the way, you don't need any dialogue tags for that. You just put in the name, name, whatever they say. So I wrote probably just some screenplays that will never see the light of day. But then I came upon an idea that one thing I always loved as a kid was the old King Arthur legend. And one thing that stuck in my mind, I'm sure it's everybody else's mind, was like apparently on the epitaph for King Arthur, it was always the once and future king, right? And I always got stuck on the last part, the end future. And that's where the idea came from for my first novel series, is what if King Arthur essentially came back to life, in the modern era. So that was kind of the genesis. I started kind of half-heartedly started it in 2007 as a screenplay. Lost my hard drive, started over.
Oh,
no. Yeah, just decided to write it as a book. That took almost 10 years because I wrote it in pieces, and then I got deployed and I wrote the rest of it. And then I just stuck it on the shelf for, I think, 3 more years, and then came back and decided it was one of those kind of, when you get to a certain age, you'd be like, what are the top 10 things I would like to do in my life before I get too old to do anything? And one of them was write a book. I was like, I started it. Let me see if I could actually finish it. So.
And what was the first book you finished? Was it the Future King?
It was Fall to Earth, which was it's essentially the origin story, right? But not the origin story from the perspective of Arthur himself, but the origin story as told by the Lancelot character. So,
right on. He's always the favorite.
Yeah, and this one is a girl. I do a lot of gender swapping because if you ever read Arthurian legend, there's almost no women at all in the story. You have Guinevere, the Lady of the Lake, and a whole lot of wives and ladies and damsels. So, of course, Kay becomes Kay, Arthur's half sister, and you get all the usual suspects, right? You get Morgan and the Lancelot character, who in this book is Indiana, and I'm trying to remember some of the other more famous names, like Tristan and Isolde make an appearance. It was a fun first novel that I wrote, and I realized I don't have enough material to make one book. And it ended up being 3 books. And then midway through the 3rd book, it became 4 books because I still didn't have enough.
That's awesome.
Enough pages to keep, to finish. Because there's still a lot of story to tell. And the other thing that bothers me about King Arthur story is, it's made up of just a lot of European pieces and parts. You got Celtic myth and some Roman, and you've got some French stories kind of mashed together. And then if you read kind of the story, it gets like to the Holy Grail part, and then it kind of like, and then he dies. It kind of just it just lay in the plane. You're like, well. And in my mind, I'm like, I want a more satisfying ending that ties these things a little bit more tightly together. And I just finished the final novel, Rise of Avalon, I think about a month ago.
Oh, right on.
I should say I published it about a month ago. It takes about a year for me to write a novel. And it was a lot of fun and pretty satisfying ending to a series for me.
Oh, right on. That's awesome. Congratulations for finishing the series.
Yeah, that's that was my second accomplishment, right? The first one was like, hey, I should write a novel. And then it kind of ends up being one of those Forrest Gump things, right? So I just kept running. And then you get to the end, you're like, well, I think I'll go home now.
I can share some of my geek cred. So we have one of the groups I work with is a couple of guys called Go Games, and one of the guys, Jason Tondro, is a huge. He was a professor teaching English, and he was a huge fan of Arthur and did a lot of study on Arthur. And we actually created the Arthur Lives role-playing game, where Arthur comes back, and like there's all these like reincarnations that can happen and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a lot of fun and very That's interesting. Awesome. Yeah, to see that kind of thing hit the shelves. To bring that to life a little bit. So yeah, it was pretty neat.
I've seen so many, not only movie adaptations of the original, kind of trying to replicate the original story, right? Like Excalibur is kind of like the standard, and then you have I think it was King Arthur, or was it Arthur? With Clive Owen.
And when they were in Britannia.
Yeah, it was more Roman focused, and then there's a lot of fantastic retellings. Like, I don't know if you remember the old comic Camelot 3000.
Oh yeah.
That? Oh man, that one was huge for me when I was a kid. It was a big impact on my just on my mindset as a kid. I'm like, this is King Arthur, but wait, it's not King Arthur. This blew my mind.
Oh yeah, Camelot 3000 was a jam back in the day.
Oh yeah, well, that was kind of introduced to me the idea of like, well, so Tristan became a woman in that book. I'm like, oh, you can change the gender. Yeah, that's a great idea. That kind of concept stuck in my head, obviously.
Swoosh! There you go.
There you go.
I got you. Camelot 3000 in color.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So 80s.
Right? The color palette and the skin tight like scale mail and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Oh hell
skin
yeah.
tight scale mail, that's gotta chafe.
Oh god. I wouldn't even want to. No. But like very iconic covers that they used to have in produce. Whoa, that is very big. Very big covers that they used to have. Really showing off a lot of the art talent like back in the day, so, but I mean, is that skin tight scale mail again, but I mean, they did a lot with that series when it ran.
I thought they did it was a 12 book run, I think it was, if I remember correctly. I just remember picking up every issue and just it was still back in the 4-color era, right? Where you didn't have these beautiful inking that you see, inking and coloring that you have nowadays. That Image and folks like them really pioneered in the mid-early 90s.
Yeah, but digital coloring and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if you took that and probably recolored it, it probably still hold up Although it'll still be very 80s. I don't think you're going to get away from that part.
Yeah, a lot of the storylines and stuff like that. Yeah, you ain't lying.
Yeah.
So what are you going to be working on next?
I'm working on a new series. King Arthur was the best way to describe that is it's science fiction, but it's also mythological fiction. Mm-hmm. So it straddles a little bit of fantasy, only in the sense that it kind of echoes back things that happened, millennia ago, but it doesn't imply anything that things go this way. So my next series is a fantasy series. It starts off very lit RPG, but then it immediately jumps right into being a portal fantasy.
Oh, right on. So they experience the world as a game and then get sucked into the game?
Yeah, it's more of they're playing one game and they get a beta invite to this new game that nobody's played before. It comes with a new device to wear to try it out, and then things happen. Things happen. One thing leads to another, and then they're stuck in this fantasy world that has almost none of the usual lit RPG trappings. Right? There's no universal announcing system. There's no quest icons that tell you what to do. It essentially becomes how do I describe it? A Game of Thrones meets I had a good Ready Player One with a bit of Agatha Christie, and then there were none mixed in there. So
we could see some players like get smoked.
Yeah. Yep. No spoilers, but character deaths actually are a thing.
So, he was my favorite guy. Oh God, the humanity!
George R. R. Martin does not care about your feelings.
I would start like yelling out Ned, no, but it's still too soon.
It's too soon. You
gotta
pour one out.
It's only been 20 years. So if people want to stalk you on the internet and check out your books, they can obviously go find you on Amazon under Ken Britz. But if they want to stalk you on the internet, dive deep into the world of boats and books and all sorts of stuff, where can they find you?
Just add .com at the end. So kenbritz.com is where you can find me.
Right on. And does it have links and portals? I'm going there right now.
Yep.
Does it have links and portals to all your books?
Yes, sure does. Links and portals to everything.
Yep. All right. So we have the technology to share screens. It's amazing. Right. And oh wow, it's got a cool little icon too. Boop. Yep. So there we go. Go here. You can get his books. What do you put on the blog?
A lot of times it's what I'm reading, what I've read. Sometimes it's my thoughts on either my writing process or how I translated certain characters. Especially I like to go back and think about, how did I realize, Morgan Le Fay as a character, and write some thoughts on that. But most recently it's a lot of things that I've read and my thoughts and opinions on it. Probably the most viewed blog is my review of like Space Fleet military science fiction, because I have a special place in my particulars on what I like about Space Fleet.
All right, so I got to ask before we start, like rolling up the carpets and getting weird and vanishing from the internet. I got to know, what are the two things you really like about Space Fleet stuff as a Navy? Because you're an officer, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So as a naval officer, what are the two things you like about like Space Fleet stories, and what are the two things that drive you mental?
The things, I'll start with the things that drive me crazy is I'm not a fan of like space carrier fiction, because it just doesn't make sense. As much as I love Battlestar Galactica, little space fighters defying physics doesn't make sense. It absolutely doesn't make sense. And the other thing that doesn't make sense to me is ignoring a certain amount of physics just for visuals, right? Relativistic. That's one of my favorite things about good military science fiction is taking into account physics. Yes, you can have faster than light travel, but relativistic effects like light delay, it bothers me, I guess. And anybody can have an Ansible, right? You can have an Ansible system that's instantaneously, like you pull into a system and you go all Captain Kirk and go instant. Hey buddy, how's it going? I'm just calling you up here and seeing how things are going on. I'm FaceTime with my buddy here on the planet. But I enjoy seeing that. And the other thing that I really enjoy is when people treat their military people like they're not caricatures. So I think that drives me a little crazy when you get a character that's either a cardboard cutout of a TV show character, which is unrealistic, or on the other side where they're stony faced, stony eyed killer. I was like, nobody actually acts like either of those all the time. They're humans, and we're professional. We try to be professionals, but we have failings. So good characters, relativistic physics in certain scenarios I enjoy, and things that bug me is carrier fiction, which is all preference. And then some of the space battles, I think it's just how a space battle is portrayed is either I enjoy it or I don't. I think it's all dependent on the writer and how they deliver it. So those are the things I like and enjoy. Like David Weber, I mean, he could write a story about paint drying and I'll read that. In fact, I think it was his fourth or fifth book where his character Honor Harrington literally did nothing in the entire book, but I still read it. I got to the end and I go, she had no character arc. She showed up, she did some things, but nothing impacted the plot, and then plot happened anyway. But I read the book because it was so engaging.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like having Morgan Freeman read your laundry list.
That's true, yeah.
Right? It's like, I don't care what it is, just as long as you read it.
Today's the groceries.
And
eggplant.
and speaking of Morgan Freeman reading anything, Josh Hayes. No, I can't do Morgan Freeman. I was going to try. And many thousands of thanks for our awesome show notes and timestamps. Hell yeah. And speaking of Keystroke Medium, you guys can capture live Keystroke Medium Live Monday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, where Josh, Scott, and Chuck roll over and roast. Another coffee metaphor there. The roundtable discussions and live studio guests about all things reading, writing, and a little bit more. Coffee and Concepts when Joe Biden isn't tanking the economy, forcing me to work 90 hours in a week, normally hitting 7:30 a.m. Eastern. That president joke failed miserably. Yeah. We have Lauren and Kayleen rocking The Writer's Journey, where they take subject matter experts that pertain to the new and established author alike and dissect various amounts of reading, writing, and a little bit more. We have Josh Gayu doing long form storytelling on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button so that we can continue to give you more creative and colorful content right here on Keystroke Medium, just like James S. Aaron, who is doing Marathon Author on our YouTube as well. Ken, as the show note guy, did I miss anything?
You forgot Kayleen's story time.
Kayleen's story time. That's why you're here, and that's why, once again, Josh Hayes, we're going to put that up there. Many thousands thanks for our awesome show notes and timestamps. Kayleen's story time. It's usually Mondays at around 4:30 Eastern, I believe. I think so, yeah. Right on. So she usually dives into a chapter one of the various books she's reading so that you can experience it. And if you like it and you love it and you need more of it, go to Amazon and pick up that book and support those authors. Definitely. We want to thank you coming out for Coffee and Concepts. Ken, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for the coffee.
If we send you some coffee, yeah, can we bribe you to come back on again?
Sure.
Hell yeah!
Finish the
So,
next series.
well, finish the first book. We'll have you out.
True.
We'll dig right into it. So we're gonna bounce because right now we need to do some reading, writing, and everything right in between right here.